What happens when a Hollywood star walks onto a daytime talk show expecting a friendly conversation and instead faces an all-out attack on live television? In just 35 seconds, one comment from the host would ignite a firestorm that would end with security escorting a major celebrity off the set in front of a stunned studio audience. Mark Wahlberg walked onto the View set that morning with his usual confident stride. The audience applauded as he made his way to the panel, shaking hands with the hosts. Whoopi Goldberg smiled warmly. Sonny Hostin nodded politely. Sarah Haynes waved enthusiastically. But Joy Behar sat with her arms crossed, her expression already showing something closer to contempt than welcome. The interview started normally enough. Whoopi opened with a question about Mark's latest film project. He answered graciously, sharing some behind-the-scenes stories that had the audience laughing. Sarah asked about his fitness routine, and Mark gave his standard humble response about just trying to stay healthy for his family. Then Joy Behar leaned forward. "So Mark," she began, her voice dripping with a tone that immediately shifted the energy in the room. "Let's talk about your past. You know, the stuff you don't usually bring up in these puff piece interviews." Mark's smile faded slightly. "I've always been open about my past, Joy. I made mistakes when I was young. I've worked hard to become a better person." "Worked hard," Joy repeated, almost mocking. "That's interesting, because some of us don't get to just work hard and have our past erased. Some of us don't have the privilege of a Hollywood career to make people forget." Mark leaned back in his chair, clearly trying to maintain his composure. "Joy, I'm not sure where this is coming from, but I've never tried to erase my past. I've spoken about it in interviews. I've talked to youth groups. I've been very public about my journey." "Your journey," Joy said with a dismissive wave. "Everything is a journey in Hollywood, isn't it? A redemption arc. A comeback story. All very convenient when you have publicists and managers spinning everything for you." The audience shifted uncomfortably in their seats. This was not the light, fun interview they had expected. Whoopi cleared her throat. "Joy, I think Mark is trying to answer your questions. Maybe we could what, Whoopi?" Joy turned to her co-host. "Give him softball questions so he can promote his movie. Is that what we're doing now?" Whoopi's eyebrows raised. "That's not what I said." "But it's what you meant," Joy shot back before turning her attention back to Mark. "See, this is the problem. Everyone wants to make nice. Everyone wants to pretend that everything is fine because someone is famous. Well, I'm not going to do that." The audience went quiet. Whoopi shifted uncomfortably in her seat. "I never asked anyone to forget," Mark replied, his jaw tightening. "I've apologized. I've tried to make amends. I talked to young people about not making the mistakes I made." Joy laughed, but there was no humor in it. "You talk to young people? That's rich. Tell me, do you tell them about how easy it is to just become a millionaire movie star and have everyone forgive you?" Mark's knuckles turned white as he gripped the armrest of his chair. "Easy? You think any of this was easy? You think growing up where I grew up was easy? You think turning my life around was easy?" "Oh, here we go," Joy said, rolling her eyes dramatically. "The tough guy from Boston routine. We've all heard it before, Mark. You're not the only person who had a difficult childhood." "I never said I was," Mark's voice rose slightly. "But you're sitting here acting like I haven't earned anything. Like everything was just handed to me." Sarah Haynes interjected nervously, her voice almost trembling. "Joy, maybe we should—" "No, Sarah." Joy cut her off sharply, not even looking at her. "I think our audience deserves to hear this. We sit here every day talking about accountability, about privilege, about who gets second chances in this country and who doesn't. And here we have a perfect example sitting right in front of us." The cameras caught several audience members exchanging concerned glances. One woman in the front row whispered to her friend, clearly uncomfortable with the direction of the conversation. Mark's face had gone from friendly to stone cold. His Boston accent grew thicker with each word. Joy, I came here to talk about my new movie and my charity work. If you want to have a real conversation about redemption and second chances, I'm happy to do that. But this feels like an ambush. This feels personal. Personal? Joy's voice went up an octave. You want to talk about personal? How about the people whose lives you affected personally? Do they get to come on talk shows and promote their movies? Sarah Haynes interjected nervously. Joy, maybe we should... No, Sarah, Joy cut her off sharply. I think our audience deserves to hear this. We sit here every day talking about accountability, about privilege, about who gets second chances in this country and who doesn't. And here we have a perfect example sitting right in front of us. Mark's face had gone from friendly to stone cold. Joy, I came here to talk about my new movie and my charity work. If you want to have a real conversation about redemption and second chances, I'm happy to do that. But this feels like an ambush. An ambush, Joy scoffed, throwing her hands up theatrically. You're a big tough action star, Mark. Can't handle a few questions? Can't handle someone actually challenging you instead of kissing your feet? Sunny Hostin shifted in her seat, clearly trying to decide whether to intervene. She glanced at Whoopi, who was watching the exchange with growing concern. Mark took a deep breath, visibly trying to control his temper. Joy, I've handled plenty of tough questions in my career. I've sat down with serious journalists who asked me difficult things, but they asked with respect. They asked because they wanted to understand. You're not asking questions. You're attacking. Attacking? Joy's face flushed. If you think this is an attack, you really are as soft as I thought. I'm simply pointing out facts. Facts that you seem very uncomfortable with. What facts? Mark demanded. What exactly are you accusing me of right now? Because it feels like you have some agenda here that has nothing to do with anything I've actually done or said today. Joy leaned forward, her elbows on the table. My agenda is truth, Mark. My agenda is not letting celebrities come on this show and get a free pass just because they're famous. A free pass? Mark's voice was incredulous. You've been grilling me from the second I sat down. Where's the free pass in that? Sunny Hostin finally spoke up. Joy, I think we should maybe redirect this conversation. Mark, let's talk about your production company and the projects you're developing. But Joy wasn't finished. She turned to Sunny with an annoyed expression. Really, Sunny? We're just going to softball this? Whoopi tried to regain control. Ladies, let's all take a breath here. We have a guest, and we should treat him with respect. Respect, Joy said, turning back to Mark. You want to talk about respect? How about respecting the people whose lives you affected? How about respecting our intelligence by not coming on here pretending to be some reformed hero? Mark stood up slowly. The audience gasped. I never pretended to be a hero, Joy. I came here as a guest on your show. I've admitted my mistakes publicly. I've worked with organizations to help at-risk youth. I've donated millions to causes that support communities I hurt. What more do you want from me? How about some humility instead of this? Hollywood redemption tour? Joy shot back, also rising from her seat. How about acknowledging that you got opportunities that other people with your background would never get? I acknowledge that every single day. Mark's voice rose now, his Boston accent thickening with emotion. Every single day, I wake up grateful for the chances I've been given. But I also worked my tail off. I showed up. I changed. I didn't just sit around talking about other people. I actually did the work. The last comment landed like a bomb. Joy's face flushed red. Whoopi stood up quickly. Okay. Let's all just calm down here. But Joy ignored her. Did you just imply that I don't do work? That sitting here every day discussing important issues isn't work? I didn't say that, Mark replied. But you're sitting here attacking me for things I did decades ago, things I've repeatedly addressed, while I'm actually out there trying to make a difference. So yeah, maybe instead of tearing people down on TV, you could focus on building something up. Sarah Haynes covered her mouth with her hand. Sunny sat back in her chair, eyes wide. How dare you? Joy's voice shook with anger. How dare you come onto this show and talk to me like that? This is my show. It's called The View, Mark countered. Not the Joy Behar attack hour. I came here in good faith. You've been hostile from the second I sat down. Whoopi moved between them. Mark, Joy, both of you need to... No, Whoopi, Joy interrupted. This is exactly what I'm talking about. Men like this think they can just waltz in anywhere and demand respect without earning it. Mark laughed in disbelief. Earning it? I've been acting for 30 years. I've produced dozens of films. I've created jobs for thousands of people. I've raised millions for charity. What exactly do I need to do to earn your respect, Joy? You could start by not being so arrogant, Joy snapped. I'm arrogant? Mark's voice went up another notch. You've spent the last 10 minutes attacking me on live television, and I'm arrogant for defending myself? The audience was completely silent now. Some people looked shocked. Others looked uncomfortable. A few were filming on their phones. Sunny tried again. Guys, maybe we should go to commercial and... No, Joy said firmly. I want everyone to see this. I want everyone to see what happens when you question someone with privilege. They can't handle it. They fall apart. Mark shook his head slowly. I'm not falling apart, Joy. I'm standing up for myself. There's a difference. You don't get to bully people just because you have a microphone. Bully? Joy's voice hit a new pitch. I'm a bully? That's precious coming from someone with your history. That was it. Mark picked up his microphone pack and started removing it. I'm done. I don't need this. Whoopi reached out. Mark, please, let's just... No, Whoopi. I'm sorry, Mark said, his voice calmer now but firm. I have too much respect for myself and my family to sit here and be attacked like this. Joy, I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for, but you're not going to find it by tearing me down. Joy stood with her arms crossed. Running away? How typical. Mark stopped and turned back. I'm not running away. I'm choosing not to participate in whatever this is. There's a difference between having a tough conversation and being disrespectful. You crossed that line about 5 minutes ago. Sarah finally stood up. Mark, I'm really sorry about this. This isn't how we usually... It's okay, Sarah, Mark said gently. I know this isn't you. A producer rushed onto the stage, looking panicked. He whispered something to Whoopi, who nodded grimly. Mark, if you could just stay for a few more minutes, the producer pleaded. We can reset. Start over. Start over? Mark looked at him incredulously. Did you see what just happened? Your host just spent 10 minutes attacking me personally. There's no reset from that. Joy jumped back in. Oh, please, you're such a victim. Big, strong Mark Wahlberg can't handle a woman asking him tough questions. They weren't questions, Joy, Mark said, his patience clearly exhausted. Questions are when you're looking for answers. You were making accusations. You were grandstanding. You were using me as a prop for whatever point you're trying to make. Whoopi moved closer to Mark. Listen, I understand you're upset. Joy can be direct, but we're live. If you walk off, it's going to be a whole thing. It's already a whole thing, Whoopi, Mark replied. Look, I respect you. I've always respected you. But I can't sit here and let someone verbally abuse me on television. I just can't do it. The producer was now on his phone, clearly getting instructions from someone. Another staff member appeared with a security guard, which only made the situation more tense. Security? Mark looked around in disbelief. You're bringing security? For what? I'm leaving peacefully. I'm not causing a scene. Well, I wasn't until your host decided to turn this into a circus. Joy pointed at him. See? This is exactly the kind of attitude. Joy, stop, Sunny finally said with real force in her voice. Just stop. You've made your point. Let him leave. Joy turned on Sunny. Don't tell me what to do, Sunny. I have every right to... You have the right to be respectful to guests, Sonny interrupted. That's what you have the right to do. And you haven't been. At all. The audience murmured in agreement. Joy looked stunned that Sonny had challenged her. Whoopi raised her hands. Everyone just calm down. Mark, on behalf of the show, I apologize. This got out of hand. Out of hand, Mark repeated. Whoopi, she ambushed me. From the first question, she came at me with hostility. I don't know what I did to deserve that, but I'm not going to stand here and take it. Sarah stood next to Whoopi. Mark, you didn't deserve this. Joy, you were out of line. Joy's mouth fell open. Excuse me? You're taking his side? I'm not taking sides, Sarah said firmly. I'm calling out what I saw. You were aggressive from the start. He tried to answer your questions. You kept attacking. That's not okay. The producer stepped forward again. Ladies, we're still live. We need to... I don't care if we're live, Mark said loudly. Actually, you know what? I'm glad we're live. I'm glad everyone gets to see this. Because this is what happens when you try to have a real conversation and someone just wants to score points. Joy moved closer, her finger pointing at Mark. You don't get to come on this show and lecture us about real conversations. We have real conversations every day while you're off making action movies and pretending to be some kind of working class hero. There it is, Mark said, nodding slowly. That's what this is really about. You don't think I deserve success. You think because I came from where I came from and did what I did when I was young, I should just disappear. Is that it, Joy? I think you should be honest, Joy fired back. I think you should stop acting like you're some kind of inspiration when you're just another privileged Hollywood celebrity who got lucky. Mark's laugh was bitter. Lucky. Right. Growing up in Dorchester was lucky. Dropping out of school was lucky. Getting arrested was lucky. Spending years trying to turn my life around was lucky. Yeah, Joy, I've been real lucky. Whoopi stepped between them again, this time more forcefully. Okay, that's enough. Both of you. Mark, I think it's best if you go. Joy, we need to talk after this. Joy's eyes went wide. We need to talk? I'm the one who needs to talk? He's the one who... Joy... Whoopi's voice carried weight now. Enough. We'll discuss this later. The security guard moved closer to Mark, not threateningly, but clearly ready to escort him. Mark held up his hands. I don't need security to walk me out. I'm a grown man. I can leave on my own. It's protocol, the producer said weakly. Protocol for what? Mark asked. For when your host attacks a guest and they have the audacity to defend themselves? Sarah looked like she might cry. Mark, I'm so sorry. This isn't... I know, Sarah, Mark said, his voice softening for the first time. This isn't on you. Sonny, Whoopi, you tried. I appreciate that. He turned to look at Joy one last time. Joy, I genuinely hope you're okay. Because happy people don't act like this. People who are secure in themselves don't need to tear others down. I mean that sincerely. Joy's face was red. Don't you dare psychoanalyze me. Don't you dare. I'm not, Mark said calmly. I'm just observing. You went after me hard today for reasons I still don't fully understand. Maybe it's something I represent to you. Maybe you're having a bad day. I don't know. But it wasn't okay. The producer was making frantic gestures to someone off camera. The audience sat in stunned silence. Whoopi addressed the camera directly. Folks, we're going to take a break. When you come back, I'll be gone, Mark interjected. And honestly, that's probably for the best. He started walking toward the exit. The security guard followed at a respectful distance. Joy called after him. Running away doesn't make you right, Mark. Mark stopped, but didn't turn around. I'm not running, Joy. I'm choosing to remove myself from a toxic situation. Adults are allowed to do that. Toxic? Joy's voice cracked slightly. I'll tell you what's toxic. Your attitude. Your entitlement. Your... My what? Mark turned around now. My what, Joy? What is it about me that bothers you so much? Because I don't think this is about my past. I think this is about something else entirely. The studio fell silent. Everyone waited for Joy's response. She opened her mouth, then closed it, then opened it again. You think you can just charm your way through life. You think a smile and some self-deprecating comments about your past erase everything. I never thought that, Mark said quietly. I never once thought that. I know what I did. I carry it with me every single day. But I also know that people can change. I have to believe that. Because if people can't change, then what's the point of any of this? Sunny wiped her eyes. Sarah was openly crying now. Whoopi looked exhausted. Joy stood alone at the table, her arms still crossed. But something in her posture had shifted. You want me to keep apologizing forever? Mark asked. Is that it? You want me to walk around in shame for the rest of my life? Because I won't do that. I've done the work. I've made amends where I could. I've tried to be better. And I'm going to keep trying. But I'm not going to let you or anyone else make me feel like I don't deserve to exist. The security guard touched Mark's elbow gently. Sir, we should really go. Mark nodded. Yeah, we should. He took one last look at the panel. Whoopi, you're a legend. Thank you for trying to keep the peace. Sarah, Sunny, you're good people. Keep doing what you're doing. He didn't say anything to Joy. He just turned and walked toward the exit. That's right. Walk away, Joy called out, but her voice lacked the venom from earlier. Mark stopped at the door and looked back one final time. Joy, I'm not walking away. I'm walking toward something better. There's a difference. And with that, he pushed through the door and disappeared backstage. The security guard followed. The studio audience erupted in mixed reactions, some applauding, some gasping, some just sitting in shock. Whoopi turned to the camera, her professional composure barely intact. Well, folks, that was unexpected. We're going to take a commercial break and try to regroup here. As the camera cut away, Joy sat down heavily in her chair. Sarah reached over and touched her arm, but Joy pulled away. Don't, Joy said quietly. Sunny leaned forward. Joy? That was really intense. Are you okay? I'm fine, Joy snapped. He's the one who couldn't handle a simple conversation. Whoopi shook her head. Joy, that wasn't a simple conversation. That was an attack, and you know it. I was holding him accountable, Joy insisted, but her voice wavered. No, Whoopi said firmly. You were hostile from the moment he sat down. I don't know why, but you were, and it showed. The producer rushed over. Joy, we need to figure out how to handle this when we come back. This is going to be everywhere. Joy waved him off. I don't care. I said what I said. I meant what I meant. Sarah spoke softly. But did you have to say it like that? Did you have to be so mean? Mean? Joy looked at Sarah with disbelief. I was being honest. Someone has to be honest around here. There's a difference between being honest and being cruel, Sunny said, and you crossed that line today. Backstage, Mark was taking off his microphone pack when a production assistant approached him nervously. Mr. Wahlberg, I just want to say I'm really sorry about what happened out there. That wasn't right. Mark gave her a tired smile. Thank you. I appreciate that. It's not your fault. Is there anything we can do? Anything you need? She asked. Just point me to the exit, Mark said. I think I've had enough of the view for one lifetime. Another staff member approached. Mr. Wahlberg, we'd like to offer you a chance to come back, to finish the interview properly. Mark laughed without humor. You're joking, right? You want me to come back after that? We could do it another day, the staff member suggested. When things have calmed down. Things aren't going to calm down, Mark said, shaking his head. Joy doesn't like me. I don't know why, but she doesn't. And that's fine. Not everyone has to like me. But I'm not going to subject myself to that again. Back on set, the commercial break was ending. The producer counted down. 3, 2, 1. Whoopi faced the camera. Welcome back to The View. As you saw, we had an unexpected situation with our guest Mark Wahlberg. Emotions ran high, and things got heated. Joy interrupted. Let me be clear. I don't apologize for asking tough questions. That's my job. Sarah looked at her. Joy, there's asking tough questions, and then there's what you did. Those were two different things. The audience applauded. Joy looked shocked. Sunny added, I think we all need to take responsibility here. The conversation went off the rails. But Joy, you set the tone from the beginning. That's just the truth. Whoopi nodded slowly. I think we need to have a larger conversation about how we treat guests on this show. About respect. About fairness. About the difference between holding people accountable and ambushing them. Joy stood up abruptly. I don't have to sit here and be attacked by my own co-hosts. Then maybe you understand how Mark felt, Sarah said quietly. The audience gasped. Joy stared at Sarah for a long moment, then sat back down slowly. Whoopi addressed the camera. Folks, what you witnessed today was real. It was raw. It wasn't planned. And it's something we're going to have to process as a show and as a team. Meanwhile, Mark had made it to his car. His publicist was already on the phone, doing damage control. Mark, we need to figure out how to handle this, she said urgently. Handle it? Mark leaned back in his seat. There's nothing to handle. I defended myself. I walked away from a bad situation. That's all there is to it. But the optics, his publicist pressed. I don't care about the optics, Mark said firmly. I care about my dignity. I care about not letting someone bully me on television. That matters more than optics. His phone was blowing up with texts and calls. Other celebrities reaching out. Friends checking in. His agent wanting to strategize. But Mark just sat there for a moment, looking out the window. Back in the studio, the show was wrapping up. The tension was still thick in the air. Whoopi gave her final thoughts. Sometimes television gets real. Today was one of those days. We'll see you tomorrow. As the credits rolled, the co-hosts sat in uncomfortable silence. Finally, Joy spoke. I stand by what I said. That's your choice, Whoopi replied. But you're going to have to live with the consequences. What consequences? Joy asked defensively. Sunny gestured to the audience, to the cameras, to everything around them. All of this, Joy. The whole world just watched what happened. They're going to have opinions, and not all of them are going to be in your favor, Sarah added softly. And more importantly, you have to live with knowing you treated someone that way, on purpose. That's the real consequence. Joy gathered her things without responding and walked off the set. The other hosts watched her go. That was intense, Sarah finally said. That was more than intense, Sunny replied. That was career-defining, for all of us. Whoopi nodded slowly. The question is, what do we define it as? A mistake? A learning moment? Or just another day in daytime television? None of them had an answer. In his car driving away, Mark finally answered his phone. It was his wife. Are you okay? She asked immediately. Yeah, Mark said, and he meant it. Yeah, I'm okay. I stood up for myself. I didn't let someone push me around. I feel good about that. I'm proud of you, she said. You handled that with more grace than she deserved. Mark smiled for the first time since leaving the set. I tried, but man, that was rough. It was rough to watch, his wife agreed, but you came out of it looking like the adult in the room. She came out looking like she has some things to work through. Mark finished. And you know what? I hope she does. I hope she figures out whatever is making her so angry, because life's too short to carry around that much hostility. As Mark's car merged into traffic, heading away from the studio, away from the chaos, away from the confrontation, he felt something unexpected. Relief. Not because he'd won some battle or proven some point, but because he'd drawn a line. He'd said, "This is not okay, and I'm not going to participate in it." And sometimes, that's the most powerful thing you can do. The story of what happened on The View that day would spread quickly. Social media would explode with clips and commentary. News outlets would analyze every word, every gesture, every moment. But in the end, it came down to something simple. One person tried to tear another person down on live television, and that person chose not to accept it. He chose to walk away with his dignity intact. And in doing so, he showed that sometimes the strongest thing you can do is simply refuse to engage with toxicity, no matter how public the stage, no matter how bright the lights, no matter how loud the voices telling you to fight back. Mark Wahlberg walked off The View that day, but he walked off on his own terms, with his head held high and his self-respect firmly in place. That, more than anything else that happened, told the real story.